Welcome to the Self-Storage Development Podcast, the show where we take you behind the scenes of building Class A self-storage from the dirt up. I'm Brady McDonald, the founder of Barefoot Land Co., and in every episode we dive deep into the deals, the entitlements, the wins, and the real-life stories behind the people building storage across the country. From personal lessons to development insights, this is your no-fluff playbook for sourcing, developing, and investing in self-storage. Let's get into it.
All right, here we go. Episode number 2 with my friend Alex Quezada. Super stoked about this guy. Alex he's a self-storage investor and entrepreneur. He's built a $74 million portfolio. 47 of that is in self-storage. He wasn't always in self-storage though, which is really cool. And you're going to hear his journey. Alex started as a single-family home real estate investor, doing quick cash offers, wholesaling, getting acquisition company. He's been doing this for quite a while, has built teams over the years. He's building a massive self-storage portfolio as we speak, and he's also developing Class A self-storage. He's got a project he's going to talk to us about in Tallahassee. This guy has been in the trenches, pretty much an expert at most asset classes with regards to residential and storage now. So super stoked to have Alex here and to pour into you guys. So welcome, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. So how does a guy go from, I want to know the backstory. How'd you get into real estate? But how does somebody go from flipping houses to building a $47 million self-storage portfolio?
Yeah. So driving around, heard a radio ad from Ron LeGrand, how to buy houses with no money down. And so I started listening. I bought that course or that day thing, which was really selling you to a 3-day boot camp. Went to that boot camp, bought everything people were selling, which was how to wholesale houses, how to wholesale, buy houses, flipping houses. So I bought all that stuff and I learned it, but I didn't take action on anything until I really quit my job because I was doing timeshare face-to-face sales and I just didn't have the time to do it. So I kind of quit and I was a top seller for my company. And I was I'm going to go all in on this. I don't really love the timeshare. I felt like it was kind of scammy. And so I left that, went all in, started doing some wholesaling for several years, many, many years. And then eventually I had my daughter was coming and I was I maybe should start buying houses instead of just flipping everything. And so we started learning how to acquire properties with creative financing. And we bought a lot of properties subject to seller finance. And then a buddy that I taught how to get into real estate wanted to do mobile homes. And then we bought a mobile home park together. And then that's when it's this is way better. This is bigger assets, bigger money, you make more money. And so we bought a mobile home park, we bought 2 together, and I bought some apartment buildings, small apartment buildings. And then my mobile home park buddy, he asked me, he's hey, you want to go all in on this? And he had left a good job where he was making a lot of money. I was unfortunately spending a lot of money, having a good time enjoying my 20s and 30s. But I was I really got to dial in my wholesale business because it does make money and I got to replace myself. I don't want to just cut off the business because it is good active income. And so I was let me stabilize this business. It took me a couple of years to really get it going, grow the team, have actually run it like a business. That's when I connected with Kent and really turned it into a business. And then eventually after that was stabilized and where I can really step away from that part of the business, I was I want to go all in on self-storage. And I learned about self-storage a couple of years before from a big, massive real estate event where people were teaching different things. And I bought a course on it, but I just never implemented it because I was I need to fully focus on my wholesale business first.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I had a lot going on. I was trying not to be this shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
So I went back and I pulled that book back and I just dove all in and educated myself again. And in 6 months of really focusing on that, we bought our first existing self-storage deal, seller financing, amazing deal, our first marketing campaign. And after that, I was I'm going to go all in on this and just started focusing on self-storage.
Awesome. Okay, let's back up a little bit. I actually got to go back to so you were selling timeshares at in Orlando.
Yeah, so it was actually a travel club. So we would actually go to every Thursday through Sunday, we would go to another retirement community, the Villages or Port Charlotte or different areas, Naples, and rent a hotel, conference room. And they would get flyers hey, come get a free cruise. And they would come in there and we would pitch them this timeshare alternative, which was get access to all these timeshares, but you don't have to belong to a single one as a transfer company. And it was like a great learning experience.
Yeah, you would have got a lot of sales experience from that
Yeah.
and just being able to talk to anybody.
Yeah, it was a really good sales experience. I literally just soaked in everything from like my top seller, like Scott and John and these guys I knew who were like the managers, and just like really like dialed in on like sales. And I quickly became the top seller for the last 2 years that I was working there. And it's a great experience. Face to face is, and like you only have that moment in time. It's like if they leave, it's over. Like you only have that 40 minutes you have with them. So it's all, it was a great experience. It was fun. And I learned definitely a lot about sales and people.
Dude, that's wild because I know there's like, obviously, if you're the person talking to you, there's some pressure on that side, but there's a lot of pressure on you, and I can see how that can translate because we're going to talk about seller financing stuff because you're a legit ninja, one of the best in the country on this. But we're going to talk about that because I'm sure some of those skills that you learn has translated into that and how you built this portfolio literally with like lots of opportunities with no money down, right?
I've yet to use, besides like deposits and stuff like that, use any of my money for any storage deals.
That's insane, bro. Okay, we're going to get that. I'm going to throw that nugget out there, and that's going to be why everybody stays on here forever. Okay, but then you just quit your job. Like most people probably don't just quit their job before they go into real estate. They usually do a few deals. Like you just quit.
I took some action. So like I started like sending out postcards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I was out of town Thursday through Sunday. So it's like I had a very small window of opportunity, like when I can actually respond to calls and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I'm just wasting money on this marketing. And like I said, I thought that the business of it was kind of scammy-ish. And like, I just didn't really love it. And, so like, I was like, I'm just going to quit. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm all in. Like, I went to those events and these guys on stage, like the easiest person to sell is a salesman. And on stage, these guys were like, I flew here on a jet and I never even went to high school. And like, I was like, man, I went to high school and I did good at school. So like, if he could do it, like I could do
this.
So like, I was like all in by what I've heard on stage. I was like, I just need the opportunity to just go all in and just focus on it. And so like, I was like, I gotta quit and just part ways.
I love that. That's cool that you can literally jump all in like that. Like for us, we took about a year and a half and we were doing about 20 deals a year before we quit. So I wouldn't recommend everybody just to quit their job, right? But there is one way to make sure it works is burn the boats.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it wasn't like I was making like, it wasn't like a career. Like lots of people come out to me and like, they're like, oh, I want to quit and do my thing. I'm like, if you love your job and you make really good money, you should actually keep your job because banks for some reason love a W-2 rather than someone who's like grinding and building it all themselves. And so like, if you're trying to get into storage or something else, like the bank's going to love that you make six figures and on a W-2 and you're trying to buy this property on the side. Like that's actually better. So I would do what you did. If you have a good paying job, then do that and, buy 5, 10, whatever, as many as you can, and then quit. But if you're young and I was younger at the time and like you live with your parents and have low income or like low expenses, then I would go all in on something big first because you just don't have as much liabilities.
Yeah. Love that. So you said something a little bit earlier too, Alex, that you actually stayed focused. Like you got the storage course, but then you stayed focused on your wholesaling course to crank cash on that. So that way it could basically work for you. Is it still operating right now and today?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I call it like my passive income. Like I almost call my crypto company, that is my passive income because like it's a business that operates. I do like oversee it. We have weekly meetings and everything like that to like oversee it. My brother runs the day-to-day of that business and he's been with me since he's been 18. So he's been in it for 12 years now. And so he's seen me come up and been alongside with me all the way. So we've done everything in the wholesale business. We've wore every hat and so has he. And so he knows the business very well. So it's my brother. So I fully trust him to take command. And it allows me to like completely step away. And, I step in here or there when we mostly like take down assets if we're buying rental properties or flip stuff like that. And then me and my team, project manager, property manager kind of take over and hold and kind of guide the deal when we have control of the asset.
Yeah, makes sense. You focused on that, took a couple of years, gave you the freedom to then really understand and get into storage. So let's talk about your first storage deal. Like, how did you take that down? Was that through seller financing? Can you just walk us through, what it took to get that done?
Yeah, so it was a mail campaign, our first mail campaign. The guy was like, I've never checked the mail in the night before, me and my wife talked about it and said, like, it's time to sell. And I just happened to check that mail that day, and it was that postcard. And I think God works in mysterious ways. And I'm like, 100%, man. Like, I feel that completely. So like, we had like a good relation on that. Like, things happen like for a reason. And then so like we connected, and he was selling the business. He wanted 850. And it was our first self-storage deal in Sebring, Florida, which I didn't really know that market at all. So we called some local brokers around. We're like, hey, what would a property trade in this, like, what cap rate would a property trade at? And they said like a 7 cap. And he was asking a 5 cap. So he was asking like 850, and a 7 cap was like 600, something like that. So he's like, man, I really need 850. I was like, hey, we can make 850 work if you can give us, terms. Like, we'll pay your price if you give us our terms. And so they owned it free and clear. This was a little bit of a unique situation not always unique, because this does happen. They bought this property because there's a big commercial building on the property and a lot of like land around it. And they owned a tree company. And so they were working out of the large building, and the self-storage was like the self-storage, and they like didn't care about it. Like, their secretary ran it, but like they weren't optimizing or anything. Like,
they were there to run their business.
They're there to run their business, and they're like, hey, this is like extra income, and it's great extra money. But they're have a big tree company, have all these trucks there and everything else. So like, they were selling the tree company, and so like they were going to sell the self-storage facility and like the whole property together. And then so we came to negotiations, obviously just trying to figure out exactly what was the motivation for the seller. The motivation was like, they didn't really need money because they sold their tree company too. So it was just about like, we want our price. And that was their main factor. So, hey, I can give you your price. You pay my terms. You do my terms. And so we agreed to 150 down, and then 700 grand was 3% interest, amortized for, I believe, 30 years, 25 or 30 years. And it was great, a great deal. I'm mistaken. 3% interest only. So 3% only for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was great cash flow up front. But for me, what I've learned and definitely learned now better is it's all about the value add. So where's my value add in this property? So one thing, it was like immediate. Like, I was willing to pay a 5 cap. Like, everybody asked me, like, what cap rate are you looking for? So it's not like essentially what I'm looking for. It's like what I can get it to be. So I'll pay a 5 cap if I can get it to an 8, 10 plus, and how quickly can that be realized?
Yeah.
With construction, it's not easily realized. With existing properties, it can be. Like, this guy, like I said, wasn't running it like a storage business. And literally, there's a property 100 yards away that was full also. And they were getting twice the rents. So a 10 by 10 of this property was like $50, and they're charging like 90.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, they're full. Both properties are full. So it was like, we could just raise the rents. Like, there's some things we need to add because the other property has cameras and an automatic gate. You can book online and all these things. So we're like, hey, if we could do the same things, we should be able to charge the same price. And that was like a quick value add that we had there. The other value add on it was that commercial building. He wasn't paying himself rent, so it wasn't on his P&L. But he's moving out of it because he sold his tree business. So that was an instant rental. We were thinking about, because it had like large bay doors, like renting it to RVs because that was a big RV place. But we actually found an AC company who rented it out, which is way easier. One tenant, no turnover, sign a long-term lease. And so that was like immediate like increase as soon as we bought it. Like, we found that company. And then we expanded there was room to expand the parking lot. So we moved the fence back because he had all these trucks. We're like, this AC company doesn't need all those trucks. We'll like push the fence back, and we put that in our agreement. And then so we expanded the parking lot. We added one building through Boxwell, some portable units. And all that was done literally in 6 months. And we turned this 5 cap deal into a 12 cap, like, in 6 months.
Dude, that is awesome. And then you're still holding this note for 700 grand for 3% for probably forever. And
well, we did sell that property. So that is one property. We sold it like 32 months later, like 2.5 years later. We did sell it. We had great equity. There's so much equity trapped in there. So one of my mentors told me, is like, you got to look at your return on equity. Like, if you refinance it, what are you going to make on it compared to like how much money can you make net? And so we sold that property and 2 others that we had. And, it was like a 3% return on equity. So it's like, well, if I can sell this property and make this 7+ figure check, and I can make more than 3% of my money, and I can still find deals, I'm not going to retire, and these aren't legacy assets, then you should sell them. And I was like, no, I'm going to sell them. And that definitely helped me realize kind of like my new strategy of like always be buying and always be selling. Yeah. Because originally I wanted like 5,000 doors and all this stuff, but like I think there's just always periods of like buying and selling. And so that's like our new goals. Like we're constantly be buying and constantly be selling. And that's what we do with houses also, because it allows you to pull the chips off the table and like actually have money.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally appreciate that because I've been multiple times very equity rich and extremely cash poor. Actually, for probably since I started being a real estate investor.
It's a different business. I think it's like a common theme for sure in real estate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you just mentioned something about your mentor. Can you talk to me about like, so you don't just do this alone? Who do you put around yourself? Like, let's just even go back from the day that you started investing in real estate to now. Like, do you have like a theory or a strategy on how you surround yourself with the right people that help you get through this stuff and with the massive growth that you've done?
Yeah, I think it's pivotal to have a mentor, coach, be in masterminds, constantly educate yourself. That's how I got started. I always felt like I was a good student in school, but I like other people teaching you and guiding you. Like it shows you like what's possible. Like that guy being on stage and being like, I flew here on a jet, no school. Like if he could do it, I could do it. Like it just shows you what's possible. So like even from the beginning of real estate, like that's how I got into it was education. And so I've always paid for education year after year. I didn't pay, like I would pay for my downfall, I think in the beginning was not paying. Really, it was Kent's group 3 years earlier because I got approached 3 years earlier to join Boardroom and do those things. And I was like, oh, I could spend that money on marketing and, that's a lot of money. I could 5X that money on marketing. Like, why do I do that? Like, I know how to do this already. And that was a mistake for sure because I would be 3 years ahead of where I am right now. And so it's good to pay for the education, but you also want to be in the right rooms. Because if you're just paying for those $100 things or $1,000 events that are like more like raw, rather than like actually tactical, things that like really help you, turn your business into a business or scale your what you're doing. Those are the rooms you got to get in. So like I pay still now to be in several different masterminds, storage, commercial, business masterminds, and it is pivotal to my business because you can lean on those folks, and everybody's willing to give you the information and provide contacts and lead you down the right path, or at least tell you like what to look out for. Like, hey, these are like some ticking time bombs here, or some grenades over here.
Blind spots.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100% pivotal. I will always continue to pay for education for the rest of my life. You cannot stop learning, and someone's always ahead of you who knows more.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe I'll just give it a little bit more context. So both Alex and I are in the Boardroom Mastermind. So it doesn't really matter what asset or like whether you're in real estate or just in business. If you're a serious entrepreneur that wants to take massive action, wants accountability, that you're already doing well, but you want to do a lot more and you just want to be, surrounded by like-minded individuals. This is the room. Best one probably in the country, at least I can say that. I'm only in one, but yeah, I mean, so just honestly DM me or DM Alex and ask us about it because we are always looking. We're kind of selfish that way. We want to be surrounded by complete badasses. And if you are that and you're looking for more of that and want to grow, then hit us up.
For sure.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get back into the storage. So you did your first deal. You've done a whole pile of deals now. How many of those deals these self-storage value adds are seller financing?
So we've acquired 18 so far. We're buying number 19 on Monday. But out of the 18 so far, 13 of them were seller finance.
Wow. That is unbelievably really impressive. And I know, Alex, so let's just give a context of timeline. When did you start storage? When did you buy that first one?
June of 2020. 5 years ago.
Bro. Yeah, that's crazy. And you bought 18 assets literally in just over 3 years.
Yeah. Almost five. So,
yeah. 2020, did you say? Okay. I heard 2022. But I know since I met you 3 years ago, it's been like a hockey stick. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The first year was only one deal. The second year, I think we bought 5 and then 2 and 3. And then last year we bought 5 so far. On Monday will be 4 for this year. So it's been good. I think now is the best time to buy. And we've begun to get killer deals this year. Bigger properties, which is what I'm looking for, bigger assets. Right. And so I think it's a great time and, trying to do a lot more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's just talk about, I know there's probably a bunch of people interested in seller financing because it's like, so dude, you can put in, on this one deal, $150,000 down, you get a note, you don't have to go to the bank. That's a heck of a lot easier. There's a lot to that. Maybe I'll get you to, in a minute, I'm going to ask you just to give me a few other examples of terms, but how do you learn it like, how did you learn it? And then how would somebody else learn it? And like, is there any way that you help people do that?
I help people do it. I used to have like one that was just about creative financing, like a little coaching group. But I learned it from like even Ronald Grant, my first like coach mentor, like I had or course I bought, they were teaching it. But back then when I first got started, I just felt like as having no knowledge, like they were teaching like subject two. So like taking over people's loans. It was hard for me to convince people with no experience that I had it. Like I just didn't have the belief in myself. Do it. And so like it was like a limiting belief in myself because I needed proof in the concept, and I just didn't have enough proof. So it wasn't really him. It was actually this guy who unfortunately just passed away this year, Larry Hargill. He taught me. He was out of St. Pete. He was like from my local RIA. Okay. I bought his course, and that is what really like made it stick in my brain. I went to school with like a finance major, so like I know numbers really well, but like his teaching has really held me. And also when I did take his teaching, like I did have a lot more experience in real estate. And so that was when like I was like, I need to start buying assets because I was just wholesaling mostly. And in that market, there was tons of cash buyers out there and there's a lot of opportunity. And so that was mostly the factor where right now in today's market, like you need to know creative financing, whether you're wholesaling or doing anything, because interest rates are high and it's hard to make deals pencil out. And so even for houses, we buy 2 houses a month with creative financing still right now. Wow. And so just like constantly learning and educating myself, I'm sure there's a bunch of other guru people out there who teach seller financing, but that is also like one of my main, like I call like 7 accelerators. Like one thing accelerating my business is really knowing seller financing, creative financing. That is like pivotal. I always say like learning creative financing and learning how to raise capital are the 2 things that can like set rocket fuel to your business.
The cool thing about seller financing, I mean, I think there's the thought that probably fears people that, hey, listen, like it's really hard to get these people you got to convince the people to basically give me the money for free. But on the other hand, I wanted to ask you, like, are you not solving a problem for some of these people? Like,
yeah, it's all about solving problems. A lot of times it's a tax problem. Like they don't want to pay taxes. They want to keep more money. And it's not for everybody. Like the deals that we have done seller financing, it's mostly people who are wanting to retire. Right. So the deals that we haven't bought with seller financing were typically younger guys, 50 years old. Like they want to sell this property and go develop another property or buy this asset or whatever else. And so it's not for everybody, but I do try to target the avatar of people who've owned it for a long time, are ready to retire. They're used to getting that check every month from their storage business. So they're still getting a check every month and they're getting some capital. You know, if they own it for $2-3 million and they have no debt, like, what are they going to do with $2 or $3 million? You know, they probably don't want to risk it putting in a risky investment where they can lose it. So like they know the business is a solid business. They're familiar with it. So they're leveraging their capital against that business and they're getting a good return. And although sometimes we might pay, very low interest rate, I've paid them in 0%, 3%, whatever it may be, it's more security for them of like peace of mind. Like they know that money's there. It's like preservation of wealth rather than
not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Not going anywhere. They're getting that mailback money. And a lot of times we're paying, their asking price or whatever else is their struggle, whether they need a certain amount of money down or, a term or whatever it may be. But, we try to find, what their pain is or what they're looking for and then solve for that and just try to create a win-win situation.
Yeah. Okay. That all makes sense. Just because I think this might help clarify one of the questions, at least that I always had, was why would anybody do this? And I think you already alluded to it, but maybe you can give us an example of, all right, listen, if you want, that 5% 5 cap rate and your asking price is $2 million, realistically, this thing pencils at 1.7 million. So I can either give you 1.7 million today, or I can give you 2 million and you do seller financing. Is it something like that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So like we just bought a deal in Jacksonville and essentially on his income, his current income with our expenses to it. So if we buy the property, our tax is going to go up. We're going to run it differently. So we add our expenses to their income.
Yeah.
On that number, it was like a three cap. Would make no sense.
Right.
But there was immediate add value that's there that can be easily recognized by renting out the space that he didn't have. So this is like one that has industrial flex. And so there's like this 18,000 square feet that he's utilizing that we could just rent that out. Once we rent that out, it's literally like $3.5 million in value just by signing 1 or 2 tenants to that space. Wow. And so it's just it's is, hey, I can make this price work. Like on bank financing, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't pencil out. Like the bank would be like, hey, we can't pay that price because we can't meet debt service and whatever else. But because we know and we did research, so like, hey, this is a great area for this industrial space that we can quickly get this, not quickly, we estimate like 6-9 months to lease it up. But there is a customer for this space in this market. We just have to spend the time and money to go find that person. And with confidence, we're like, hey, well, buying it at this price with these terms of 3% interest only for 5 years, we can pay that price and we can cover his payment and all that, no problem. And then when we get that tenant in place, our cash flow is going to go insane. Sure. And so it allows us to like have crazy cash flow. And then that property that we bought for $6.6 million, we did put 40% down. But after we get that tenant in place, the property's worth like $9 million.
Yeah.
And so it's just quickly realized rather than having to like build a building or do anything else. It's like that. So it's like just knowing what the value add is and how quickly it can be realized allows us to pay sometimes a higher price than we typically would because of the good terms.
Love that. Yeah. And it's really just looking at the deal holistically, not just what it's worth today, but what it's really could be worth, like once you do your value add. And Correct. You're really making a deal where it just wouldn't be a deal, period, because you wouldn't get bank financing on it the other way. Right? Well, unless you put a ton down, right?
You put a ton down or get them down on price. And so they're stuck to their price.
Love that, dude. Super creative. I mean, obviously, everything you do is creative. I mean, creative financing, creative deal structures. I want to talk to you about like how you get your debt and equity and stuff in a little bit. But first, let's get into this Tallahassee deal. You've mastered this seller financing, value add strategy. You've fully transacted on a bunch of self-storage deals, right? Existing self-storage deals. And now you're getting into development. So you've got this. Can you talk to us about this project in Tallahassee? I think it's like 70,000. It's a big one.
Yeah. So this is probably like deal like 7 or 8 or something like that. So it was a couple years ago now, but we bought a property. So I sent a mail campaign out and the mail actually went to like the GC because he was building it. So like all the mail was going to him. And I had a conversation with him. He's like, hey, I built all these properties for these guys. And like, I just never built it myself because I never had the capital to build it ourselves. I was like, well, I can raise the capital if you have properties and sites and whatnot. So he had a site that he was been working on to get entitled on. It was an old YMCA that had been closed for a couple of years, not zoned for self-storage or nothing like that, but he was able to like working on it himself, trying to make sure it can get approved. So he did that process. We bought that property. It took obviously some time to still get it approved. And then we were able to get it approved. And then there was an existing building there, like the main building that had like the locker room and the basketball court and stuff like that. We used that and we converted it to self-storage. And then so that was kind of like phase 1. And then phase 2 was, knocking down all the buildings around and then building an additional 70,000 square feet of self-storage. Wow. We're about to go vertical like next week. Okay. But it's like 2 additional buildings. We're building 1 2-story building that you can drive up on both sides of it. And then there's one 1-story building completely there. So it is going to be indoor climate control units. It is in Tallahassee, Florida. And so about to go vertical there and then hopefully lease up really quickly. But along the way, we'll look at, potential exit points at CO maybe, or during, 30-50% lease up and just see where we're at and what makes the most sense for sellers. But that will be like my first large, development deal.
Awesome, dude. Well, congrats on getting into that. Have you guys already done phase 1 on that project where you converted the existing building?
That was done. Yeah, that was done. And that one's rented out. It's been like stabilized. It's been rented. It pays for itself to operate. It pays for all our expenses on the property, taxes, all that. And it's covered by that first building being built.
Awesome. Was there any learning curves that you had like during the converting? Like, I've never converted a building like that. Obviously done a ton of renovations. And I know that when you open it, it's like a can of worms sometimes when you open up a wall. Yeah. And in my head, it's probably, I think part of it's real, but it could be a limiting belief. So I'm going to ask you, like, what was that like? Was it as easy as you hoped? What was the lesson?
Yeah. So the GC I partnered with on the deal, like they had experience in doing it. So it wasn't as much of a learning curve there. Really, it's just like the timelines, man. Like the timelines for everything are just so much longer than you would expect. Just like getting permits and inspections and things like that. That was the biggest thing. The one thing we did actually learn during the conversion, which helped change some of the structure for the rest of the buildings was that there was such a demand for smaller units.
Oh,
So we're like, hey, when we build out the new buildings, let's put more small units, not too many, but like let's add more than what we have because
yeah,
those are getting rented out pretty quick. And
yeah.
so like there's a little benefit of having that one place open compared to building it all at once. But that was one thing that we learned from the build. And besides that, like it was the after we got permitting and we were done, like the conversion was pretty simple, pretty easy.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. That is so sweet to be able to test out the market. Were the smaller ones like the 5x5s, 5x10s? Is that the ones that were kind of leasing up fast?
Yeah, because it's a college town, Tallahassee. So
Yeah.
like those are the ones that kind of like got leased up by college folks, and it
Yeah.
is a little bit seasonal, but like we do retain some of that.
So let's just kind of go into like where are you developing these self storages or acquiring this facilities? Are you trying to stay in Florida? I know you live in Florida. The Tallahassee deal, the other deal.
Yeah, so my first 8 were in Florida, and after that, like my mail, like the first 8 were all for mail and mail campaigns, and they're all in Florida. And then like I had like 2 mail campaigns in a row, where, like I need like no calls. I was like, that's not good. I don't know if I tapped out like Florida right now on like just people like seeing my pieces, even though I made them always different. And then I was like, let's try like something else. Let's try different markets because I want to continue buying. I can't like just wait for deals in Florida.
Yeah.
And so we started marketing to the Southeast and Texas. And our first mail campaign outside of Florida got a seller who's ready to sell. And this was time when like rates like just like spiked and like we're high and everybody's asking crazy prices. It was probably like 6 months. No, it's actually like 22. It was like 2022 in like October 2022 is like when we first made contact with this guy.
Yeah.
And everybody's still asking for like 4 caps, 5 caps on their deals, and like rates are 7. And I'm like, this guy literally just on the phone. He's like, hey, I got your mail piece. I am looking to sell. My daughter runs the property, and I want to just, her family's had some health issues, and I just want to take it off her shoulders and just like sell it. And I'm like, all right. He's like, I'm like, what are you looking for the price? He's like, what do you need, like a 7 cap? I was like, yes, that's exactly what I need. Like, oh my god, like, it was like a common sense. And I was like, awesome. So like we came to terms. He gave me the price. He's like, okay, like I want like 4.5 or 4.4 million or 4 million. He said. And I was like, cool. Like I could do 4 million. Obviously, numbers like banks are kind of tight right now. Like I can probably pay you like a premium. I can pay you like 4.4 if you could do seller financing for me, and I'll give you a down payment and monthly payments. And he's like, I want 20 grand a month. And so I just reverse engineer the price and the payment, came to terms, and it was like 3% interest. Or I think at that point in time it was like 2.5% interest on like shorter term. And he's like, sounds good. Like, sounds good to me. Obviously, this was over like a couple calls.
For sure. Yeah. Took some time.
Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, sounds good to me. Let me check with my CPA. I was like, oh no. I'm like, this is gonna be dead. Like this CPA is not gonna agree with this. And all the CPA said was like, hey, this is good. This makes sense. But I would just get an appraisal done and make sure it appraises. Appraisal came back, and appraisal was based on his financials. And his financials were not that great because he paid his daughter 100 grand to run the property. And he also had another manager, and he also paid for overnight security. And so like he had all these extra expenses that I wouldn't put in place. And so it appraised for 5 million. So I still gave him the premium, 5.5 million. We agreed to 3% interest, and it's amortized over 30 years with a 10-year balloon. So we bought this in May of 2023. So it did take, from initial conversation to closing, like 6 months, 6-7 months. And that is one of my best deals right now. It is 80,000 square feet, 7.5 acres. It's like 200 parking spots plus 80,000 square feet. 40,000 square feet is industrial flex, and the other 40 is self-storage. And bought it for 5.5. It's probably worth $10 million right now, and we've owned it for 2 years.
Bro, congrats, crushing it. Constantly, every time I talk to you, just like the deals that you get are just like so good. It's awesome.
Yeah, that one's a good one. It's crazy. And you get like that trapped equity situation, like I have with the other one, but it's like I just can't get rid of this one. It's like too big, too nice, good area, good rate. Like I'll probably hold it for another 8 years at least till the loans due.
Good for you, dude. Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's just talk about. Okay, there's going to be a lot of listeners on here that just are interested in self-storage, maybe have one or two, and they might be listening to for more development stuff. But nonetheless, I bet you there's a lot of real estate investors, period, that we've done a ton of duplexes and triplexes and 10-unit buildings, and I want to do storage. Storage is sexy. But like, what does it really take from a team perspective to do what you're doing? I think that's like the big unknown. Well, one, a lot of people kind of have these limiting beliefs that it just takes this, something that they don't have in them.
Yeah.
Right? Like you had a limiting belief probably for a little bit. And like, but what does it really take? Like, what does your team look like? How are you operating this company when building this big ass portfolio?
So when my team started, it's different from when it has grown now. And so I think you can get started relatively easy in buying existing. Obviously, development's a little bit of a different animal, but for buying existing property, I think you really just need to spend time or money. And so I had some money back then when I first got started. So I paid for marketing to get some marketing out. Not a little bit. Like I was paying $5,000 a month in marketing. Well, we were paying every other month, and I was like, how can we do more marketing? Let's mail every month. And so we just mailed every month $5,000 a month, and that got people who were interested in potentially hearing an offer or thinking about selling, and so that helped. Now there's other cheaper ways to market, like cold calling and text messaging and things like that, but it's just like a longer conversion style. Those people aren't really interested in selling. You're trying to just spark up conversation and really get to build a relationship with them to sell to you sometime in the future when they're looking to retire or something happens in their life. When mail, I think it's just a little bit better.
Yeah, when they come in, they're hot.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, they're putting their hand up like, hey, I want to sell.
Exactly.
Right? They're cold calling. They're like, yeah, maybe. I haven't really thought about it. So totally different. Yeah.
100%. So if you can mail, I think it's the better factor. And obviously it does take some money. So you got to spend time or money to like market to these folks. But relatively, like you could do it by yourself. Like all the calls for mail came to my cell phone and I just took every call. Like I labeled it self-storage lead mail, self-storage mail. And so no matter what I was doing, if I was inside of a movie, I was at dinner with my wife, anything, like I'm walking away, I'm answering this phone because it's a self-storage deal that can be millions of dollars. I just made a priority to like make sure I answer all those calls. And really it's just me underwriting. I was doing everything at first. Like I handled everything. And I did have some partners who were doing things as well, but like I was able to implement my team into the process. So I had the the wholesale business that we had acquisition guys and marketing companies and things like that. So I leveraged that part of my wholesale business and like had cold callers that were calling for homes to also call for self-storage.
Yeah.
And then I had my acquisition team instead of me. Now the mail still came to me because there was not as many of them. I might send out $5,000 in mail, but only get 12 calls from it. And so I can handle all those calls. So all those calls came from me. But cold calling, we had more leads, but I couldn't take all those calls. So they would go to my acquisition team who did wholesaling. And I spent literally just one whole day with them and like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're trying to accomplish on these calls, which is get all the information about the seller, why they're selling, what they're looking for, information on the property, and then try to get financials. Your goal is to get financials. Once you get financials, pass it over to me. Once that happened, I became somewhat of the bottleneck on the team there because they would send me over leads. And I'm like, I don't have time to like do all these underwritings and stuff like that. Yeah. So I eventually hired an underwriter and they're in the overseas, I think in the Philippines. Now, once we get the financials, I look at it high level and I'm like, okay, I would buy this deal and I'll send it over to her and then she'll put it in the underwriting, research the market, the rent comps, supply index, all that, and then send it back to me where I structure an offer. So that's how like our process is now.
Yeah.
Where once it gets underwritten, I take a look at it and now I analyze everything she put in there and I'm like coming up with like a creative offer. Typically we try to send like 2 or 3 offers to the seller and say, hey, I'll pay cash like this, or I'll pay with bank financing this. And then here's like 1 or 2 seller finance options. And obviously that's like the higher price. That's kind of our process now. So my team is now on the acquisition side. I have there's like 3 or 4 acquisition guys. We have a cold caller who calls for the acquisition team, and then leads flow to me. This year, I've been making a lot more offers on market because we just try to buy bigger properties. And a lot of times, from my experience, the bigger properties are always ones that have brokers calling them and reaching out. So like they're a little bit more savvy and have a higher expectation of price. So it's a little bit harder to work. But these weird, funky properties I've been buying that are like half storage and half industrial and different like that, those kind of like, I don't know, not on the radar of brokers, but like, I feel like they're not as contacted as much where, we bought a couple of nice deals here this year. So
Yeah, it's a little messy. Like, I mean, it's going to be way more difficult to dispo one of those to somebody that's, like, hey, I'm a storage guy. Like, if it's got anything outside of that, we're not touching it. And that's, a lot of people stick themselves in a box, but clearly you don't.
And the banks put it in a perfect box too. The bank wants it to be just storage or whatever else.
Yeah.
So that's even a way that I've used in the past, and I did with that Texas deal was I was like, hey, this is like funky. You got parking, you got storage, you got industrial flex, you got all this stuff. I'm like, the bank with tighter lending restrictions right now, they're not going to make this so easy. They might say yes now, but then we get to commitment and they're like, hey, we can't do this. So like for sure certainty, I can close this quickly on your timeline if you do seller financing. So that's another way we push people to do seller financing when it's not fits on a perfect box of like self-storage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're kind of exposing some of the pain or future pain that you're going to have, and that's awesome. So let's go for a quick sec into your cap stack. Like, how are you funding these deals? Are you doing all this stuff yourself? Or are you doing joint ventures? What do you got?
Yeah, so mostly like joint ventures with like single check writers. They have say in the deals. And so it's not like I can do whatever I want, but I've been blessed to have large check writers who are able to fund couple $1 million deals. It is like it's definitely a blessing. The development deal we raised like $4.4 million for that. So that one, or 4 million, sorry. So that one we did bring a lot of different investors, and we did a typical syndication on that deal. Okay. But from my single family days, I had one investor who funded a bunch of deals for me. I met her. She was one of my sellers on properties. And so she funded some deals over time. And then like, just as I graduated to like bigger and bigger deals. She just constantly was able to continue to fund me. And we bought a lot of properties together. And then from one of the masterminds, I've connected with these guys who also are large check writers and have committed to a large number of millions of dollars with me. And so we bought this on Monday will be our 5th property together. And then we're looking to continue to buy more together and grow that brand and that business. And so JV partnerships with large check writers.
How do you get the credibility to get the large check writers? Because I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. So the first one I built it over time. So like I sold 3 of her rental properties, and then she's like, you've always done what you said you're going to do. And she's like, do you ever borrow money to do renovations? And I was like, yes, I do. And at that point, I didn't even really borrow money. I actually had one of my buddies put up all the money, and we would split deals 50-50. And we did a couple of rehabs together. So I had those rehab portfolio of like, hey, my credibility kit, these are deals I've done. I showed it to her. She's like, okay, boom, that works. So she sent me some money, and we did many deals together, flipping houses, buying some rentals, whatnot. And that was like over a couple of years. And then we bought a mobile home park and an apartment building, those things like that. And so it just became like a relationship where she fully trusted me because I always performed. And there's been some deals where I didn't make money, but she got still paid her money, what she's supposed to get. And so she just had this trust in me. And so as I kind of did more and more, she had more and more trust with me. And so, she just continued to invest. And right now I have like $20 million of just her capital invested in several deals, from houses, new builds, mobile home parks, self-storage, and all that. And then from having all that experience and then being in like these high-level masterminds, I got connected with these guys who are like, well, this guy has experience. He's proven what he's been able to do. We'll partner with him too. We would like to partner with him and work on deals with him. So that relationship came from being in those right rooms with big players and people who are doing big things. So that was like another big stepping stone for me to have somebody else who comes in and has a large amount of capital. That way we can continue to grow the business, because, eventually these people are going to get tapped out. So, I was going to have to go the route of like raising a lot of money, do syndications and do that. And it's a much more difficult situation because you have to either grow the team, have other people in place to do those types of things, where I don't need investor relations when I'm dealing with, 1-2 people, and I could just have those conversations one-on-one, which I do often. So I've been blessed with having the right people in the back me.
Yeah, I do. But I think really it's just like, it comes down to like who you are. And like, it's back to what you said, credibility kit. You put in the work, you do what you said you're going to do, you pay the people no matter what, right? And you answer the phone all the time. Like, you are the guy. and they obviously people trust you. They're writing $2-3 million checks, and so I just want everybody to listen. The biggest nugget here is Alex has actually sent me his credibility kit to be on. Like he has this. This is actually a thing, and you might not have one, but like start building it. Like, what do I require? Do I need to start with a single family home and some duplexes and then some small commercial? Like, what does it require to get these single check writers? If you knew what that looked like and you start working at that for the next few years, right? Then all of a sudden, you get after it, you will have this credibility kit that Alex does. And of course, you got to do exactly what Alex does, which is do what you said you're going to do, pay people,
Yeah.
give them control, give them, be, obviously transparent and probably a bunch of other things.
Yeah, I tell you, people even who are brand new, like obviously when you're brand new, it's hard to raise money when you don't have experience. But I tell people like what you want to do is like show people like the activities you're doing and the movement towards your goals that you're doing. So like if you're on social media, so like I put a lot on social media, and that helps with my credibility because I do have other people reaching out about investing money with me, and I'm building that list for whenever I do need it. But if you're showing people like, hey, I'm in a mastermind about self-storage, or I'm doing, actions, I'm talking to sellers, and you're showing those activities, that when you go reach out to your network or whatnot about, hey, I have a deal, it's not like, why do you have a deal in self-storage? Like you're a freaking dentist or something,
Yeah.
like if you're showing people like, hey, I've been doing this, I've been in it for 6 months, and you're showing people like your activities, you're going to see deals, you're talking to sellers, you're doing these things, and then you have a deal, they're like, oh man, he finally got his deal. And now they have more believe in you because like they trust that you've learned and done the steps that it takes to get this opportunity, and now you're ready to seize the opportunity, rather than be like, oh, like he just randomly found this deal, like how is he going to do it? Like it just doesn't build that trust. So even though you can be brand new, that is a way where just showing your progress and putting it out there will allow people to trust you more when you are brand new, and you can attract those people who are like your story or relate with you and want to be in those same positions eventually, and they'll invest in you.
Love that, dude. That's a huge nugget for anybody starting out, like no doubt. Or even if you've done a bunch of deals yourself and you want to get into the bigger deals, like at some point you're going to need to use other people's money, unless you're going to keep cranking away on your job or your business and just redeploy capital. Real quick, I just want to ask you, like, are you looking for money still? Are you continuously looking for these check writers? And if so, like, how would people get a hold of you, Alex?
Yeah, always looking for money. I think the thing in commercial, whatever asset class you're is always looking for deals and always looking for money. Can never have enough capital. You can reach out to me on Instagram, YouTube. Instagram is probably the best to like reach me directly, and so that's my tag right there at Alex theinvestor.Quezada.
And we'll throw his handles in the description as well.
Cool.
I've raised tons of money, and joint ventures are legitimately like a marriage, right? They are so like there is good investors and there is bad investors. I've had both. I've had thankfully a lot more good investors, great investors, or partners, joint venture partners. But like, what makes a great partner to you?
Well,
That's a hard question. Probably nobody's asking that.
that's a tougher question, yeah, because like obviously there's easier situations like when you have people who give you so much money, they expect more, typically, and so it is not always easy, but like being being responsive and making sure you perform and hit whatever they want to see. Some people want to see different things. Some people want to see, the financials every month and review it with you and go over those things. And some people are like, hey, I get my check, I'm good, and I have no worries, I trust you. And so you build up more and more trust over time. But I think a good partner is someone who kind of like knows that you're there for the partnership and you're there for putting them above everything else. Like I watch out for for other people's money than my own money, because it's a big responsibility. And so like I do everything I need to do. Like I grind to make sure like things get done. And so I just think your reputation's everything. And so just making sure like you do what you say you're going to do and you take care of their business and you protect their assets. That's what you got to do. And I think you being a great partner, like me being a great partner to them, makes them a great partner for me because they know like I'm all in. So they trust, that gives more and more trust. And then they can in turn say, hey, like I do trust this guy and he's good and we'll continue to build the relationship with them. Yeah, I think just being open and honest and, making sure you're protecting their investment.
Awesome, brother. One last thing before we jet, we're just about out of time, is like you have a group. Can you talk to me about your self-storage group? And because this, I think, is another kind of cool thing for people that might want to be able to get closer to you.
Yeah, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like I had like a small group that was like about like creative financing, teaching people how to creative finance, because that was like my kind of like superpower. And then more people who are coming into that group were like, I just want to learn self-storage. So I was like, okay, well, like I kind of converted the group to that. So we have a self-storage group. It's called Self-Storage Creators, because like I feel like you don't find deals, like you create them, and it goes hand in hand with like me, having most of these deals done with creative financing. And so anybody who's, there's people in the group who are brand new, and there's people in the group who already own deals also, but it's just a small group. I think we got like 12 guys in there, and one lady. It's a group that we meet every week, and I just pour into you with anything that you need help with on your business. I literally show them, there's tons of videos, obviously trainings and all that. And it's a little community where people are doing, looking to do deals with each other. I'm working on a potential deal with somebody in the group also, but essentially like just holding your hand from A to Z on how to, find the markets you want to invest in, underwrite deals, structure deals, go through due diligence, financing, raising capital, being bankable with the banks when you can't get seller financing, and just how to manage the property and run the property. So we manage all the properties ourselves. So we literally teach you everything from A to Z, how to do self-storage, how to get your first deal and kind of scale your business. And, just looking to help, selfishly, I know I'm doing this to like help people because I do love it. Like it is the best thing when you help somebody get their first deal. I went to a SSA in Vegas, and this guy ran into me. He's like, hey, I bought my first self-storage just for watching your YouTube videos. I'm like, that's freaking awesome, dude. Like, that's amazing. Like, so that feeling, like, is one of the things that actually made me like want to like do the coaching stuff. So like, that's amazing. But I know eventually, like I just said, like sometimes someone's going to bring a deal and be like, hey, I need a partner. Or, hey, can you work with me? And so it'll bring me deal flow in the future. And so just trying to help other people and do deals with people, you like.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. All right, everybody. So make sure you check out, you probably ping Alex with regards to capital investments and storage into his group. And of course, just make sure that you follow him along on Instagram or Facebook, wherever you hang your hat. But brother, thank you so much for being here, pouring in. We hit a ton of topics. I know there's going to be a ton of value. So thanks a lot for being here. Just doing what you always do, bro.
Good stuff. I love it. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Storage Development Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, hit subscribe and share it with someone in the self-storage space. For exclusive, fully entitled self-storage development land opportunities and to stay updated on future episodes, head to barefootlandco.com and join the newsletter. I'm Brady McDonald. Appreciate you being here. Until the next time, keep building.